Hey guys, welcome back to the Cellar and welcome back to Frightful at the Cellar. So today I'm going to be listing my top 10 most frightening horror and sci-fi movies. Now these are movies that I can't watch if I'm home by myself. All right, so get ready. I'll be right back. So number 10 on my list is The Descent. Now, The Descent was released 2005. It was directed by Neil Marshall. It's currently streaming on Tubi if you have never seen it. Now, I'm a little claustrophobic and I don't really like too many jump scares in my movie, and that's what this movie is. It is jump scares. If you are claustrophobic, it's like hard to breathe at times, and I don't want to give too much away, especially if you haven't seen it, but there's creatures in this movie that are pretty frightening and pretty brutal. So when I watch this movie, I can't watch it before bed, and I don't really want to watch it by myself. Like when I'm home alone. I can watch it during the day if I'm home alone, but like at night, home alone, yeah, no. So can't watch it before bed and not at night when I'm home alone. I remember seeing it in the theater and I remember it scaring the crap out of me. And there's actually a sequel that's just as good. I might even like the sequel a little bit better, actually. It's a really good movie, and it's really like nothing, like during that time that came out, there's really not much like it. I was right out of high school when I saw it. I saw it in the theater and it kicked my butt. It was like, this is creepy. This is frightening. These creatures are frightening. And yeah, I love this. And I love the sequel as well. So yeah, if you haven't seen The Descent, definitely check it out. Just make sure you're not home by yourself when you do watch it. Number 9 on my list is Hereditary from 2018. This is starring Toni Collette. Now, if you've seen Hereditary, you understand why it's on my list. This movie is one of the most shocking films I've ever seen in my life. There's a scene in it, there's a car scene in it, and if you've seen it, you know the car scene, right, with the pole, right? Disturbing to say the least. There is scenes in this film that will stick with you for the rest of your life. Now, I love this movie, I do, but I've only seen it once. And I don't know if I plan on seeing it anytime soon. It is just shocking. It is frightening. It's horrifying, but it's such a great film. Toni Collette is like my scream queen. I love her. She kills it really like any role she's in. She's phenomenal in this film. This is a really great movie. And it's just really frightening. It is something that like I just cannot watch on repeat. You know, I have to have like this stomach for it to rewatch it again. But it is a really great film. If you have not seen it, go in with caution, but definitely see it. I 100% recommend it. If you're a horror movie fan, definitely go into it and, you know, like prepared for something shocking and something frightening. Yeah, you've been warned. Don't say I didn't warn you. Next on my list at number 8 is Sinister from 2012, starring Ethan Hawke. Now, I've talked about this movie quite a few times on my channel. It's pretty shocking, some scenes. Bagul will forever be extremely frightening to me. There's not that many death scenes in this specific movie. In the sequel, they show a little bit more. But there's a twist at the end that I never saw coming. It completely shocked me. A lot of jump scares. This movie's frightening. I can't watch it before bed. I've said that before. I cannot watch this before bed. It's such a great movie. It is such a great movie. And it's a really great story. Like I said, there's a great twist. But it's pretty shocking. You know, the sequel a little bit more shocking than this because it dives into the story a little bit more. But yeah, I love Sinister. I can't watch it before bed, but I do love Sinister. If you haven't seen both films, definitely check it out. I'm pretty sure one is streaming on Netflix currently. Number 7 on my list is The Conjuring. Now, this was released 2013. There's been a few films after it. It's kind of surrounded by like the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, which fascinates me to no end. If you are a fan of like paranormal investigation, you will love these films. They're scary. I'm not going to lie. They're pretty frightening. There is possession going on. A lot of like, you're like, you know, kind of like you're you're looking behind your fingers, which you're peeking. You can't look away, but you're scared at the same time. I love them all. There's really not one in this franchise that I don't. Obviously, the original is my favorite, but I do love them all. And that's why it's number 7 on my list. They're such great films. If you haven't watched any of them, definitely check it out. Look up the story behind the Warrens. It's extremely fascinating, especially if you're a horror fan. And there's been so many great films that came from this actual film. You have The Nun, you have Annabelle. So if you haven't seen any of them, definitely check them all out. Number 6 on my list is Pet Sematary from 1989. This is a Stephen King film. Oh my goodness, where do I start with Pet Sematary? If you've seen it, you know, this movie's frightening. There's a scene where they show, I can't remember her name, Glenda Guilt, it's like it's like a sister. It's like the mom's sister. And she was kind of like deformed and sick. Do you remember that scene? And I probably don't remember her name because I tried to block that scene out as much as possible. But like, I will forever be horrified by this woman. Like, I can't watch this film. Like, if I do watch this film, I have to fast forward through like her scenes because she is just horrifying. And, you know, the scenes with Gage, we know what scene I'm talking about. That is pretty horrific. This movie will just forever be one of the scariest films ever made, in my opinion. Now, I didn't like the sequel. I'm going to tell you that. I did not like the sequel. I couldn't get behind it. I didn't like it at all. There's nothing like the original Pet Sematary film. It's such a great movie. It is brilliant, but it's scary. And that's why it's so great. It did its job. It terrified me. It terrified me to no end growing up. And still as an adult, like certain scenes will forever make me nauseous and sick. It's just one of those movies. There is a sequel to this movie as well, starring Edward Furlong. I don't like the sequel. I don't know why. I just can never, I do like it, but I don't. There's something about the sequel that makes my skin crawl even more. I don't know if it's like the creepy ass stepfather that's just terrifying. I don't know if it's, you know, the dog dying in it and then killing a bunch of little kittens. I don't know. There's so many things that go on in the sequel that just like, I can't watch it. I just can't do it. Even no matter how much I try, I can't. You know, people really love it. It's not a bad film. It's just not going to be like a favorite of mine ever. Number 5 on my list is The Shining from 1980. Now, this movie starring Jack Nicholson. Okay, so who hasn't seen The Shining, right? You know it's frightening. You know this is scary. Like the lady in the tub, that scene. You know, going into hotel rooms, like I always like move the curtain back right away, like in the bathroom, like the shower curtain. I'm always scared that old lady's gonna be in the tub. Or if I don't move that shower curtain, she's gonna come get me. I don't know. This movie is just terrifying. And Dr. Sleep, the sequel from this movie is just even scarier. It is brutal. It is brutal. If you haven't seen The Shining, go see it. It is just such a great work of art and it's so frightening. There's so many scenes I can think of that are just like make your skin crawl. Creepy, freaking creepy. But it's such a great film and I cannot stop watching it. Now this is also based off of another Stephen King novel. Number 4 on my list is the original It from 1990, which is also based off another Stephen King novel. This one's starring Tim Curry. This movie is the reason why I am terrified of clowns. Yes. I love the entire cast. The acting is great. Tim Curry is just a genius. He just makes your skin crawl and like the scenes are so frightening. They're so shocking. And they're just such a good time. The sequel's even scarier in my opinion. Like it's pretty brutal, the sequel, but the original will always be one of my favorites and always be one of the most frightening movies I've ever seen in my life. If you don't have a fear of clowns, definitely check out all the It movies. Number 3 on my list is Candyman from 1992. This is starring Tony Todd. It was directed by Bernard Rose. We love Tony Todd here at the Cellar. I just love Candyman. You know, think about it growing up. You know, like you hear Bloody Mary, you don't see her name in the mirror. And then this is like a different version of this. And I think this movie is just one of those films that, like, I was really young when I watched it, and it scared the heck out of me. Like, I don't even want to say the name of this film too many times recording this. Like, that's how scared I am to this day of it. It's just such a scary film, and the story's great, the acting is great. Tony Todd just makes your skin crawl. Like, he is phenomenal. Like, that voice, that deep, ominous voice is just like, just haunts your dreams. And that's what you want in these type of films. You want something that's just gonna stick with you for the rest of your life. And Candyman has done it. And that's why it's one of the most frightening movies I've ever seen. And they recently made another Candyman film. I don't really know how I feel about that one. I didn't hate it. I didn't really love it. Of course, it can't hold a candle to the original film. Wasn't a bad movie, but it's not one of my favorites. Next to my list, number 2, is the 2007 The Strangers. Yes, I remember when I saw this film. I saw it in the movie theater. And I think what scared me the most about this is that it was real people. It was real people that just kind of wanted to mess with you. Wanted to mess and kill you. You know, it's just, there's something so horrifying and frightening about that. That the monster is not an actual monster. It is a human being. You know, you could just be like, you know, going to the cabin with your boyfriend and some crazy people show up in masks and they're just terrorizing you. You know, it's a slow burn, this movie. It's a little slow at times, but it is just, it's one that wakes you up. One that is just like, wow, okay. The monster isn't the clown or some alien from outer space. It's us. We're the monsters. And I think that's why this movie will always be one of the most frightening movies I have ever seen. And they did make a sequel to this film. It's called The Strangers Pray at Night. Now, this is more gory. It's more bloody. It's more brutal. A lot more action than the original film. I did really enjoy it. If you haven't seen either film, I definitely recommend it. Number 1 on my list is Jaws from 1975. Now, this is a Steven Spielberg film. I watched this film when I was really young, and I love to swim in the ocean. I love to go snorkeling, and I'm in the New England area. Now, this film is about a great white shark that's rogue attacking vacationers in the New England area. Now, what is more scary than that? You know, I'm in the ocean, I'm having a good time, and then a big shark's gonna come and bite off my leg. You know, I was a kid when I saw this film, and I remember just going to the beach often and just being afraid, even when the water was shallow, that a shark was gonna come and bite me, eat me, you know? Like, I still went swimming. It didn't stop me, but it was frightening. You know, I'm always looking for that little fin to appear. I remember years ago, I went to go swim with dolphins, and they had that little fin. And even though I knew they were dolphins, it's when they swim by you, I'm like, is this going to be a shark? Is a shark really mixed in with the dolphins right now? Am I going to get eaten? You know, frightening, frightening. These massive creatures that I personally don't know much about terrify me. And that's why they will forever be one of the most frightening creatures to me. And this will be one of the most frightening movies there is. All right, that's my list. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you comment down below your most frightening horror and sci-fi movies. Thank you so much for watching. We have a lot more in store for this spooky season. I'm pretty excited for it. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll be right back.